Everybody, welcome into the Spread, Nesson.com's football picks podcast, the wild card round edition, presented to you this time around by Nesson.com. From here on out, we're going to make some picks, make our NFL picks, playoff picks. We're in the wild card round. Mixed bag of football treats this week. Some very bad and some very good. But before we do that, before we make our picks, we're going to do a little look back. Do you want to start
introspective, if you will,
last week, or do you want to start?
Let's look at the preseason picks that we made at the start of the season.
Okay.
Because a lot of them weren't very good.
well, we like to own that, though.
I mean, we got the obvious things
If
right.
we're making garbage selections, we want to put it all on the line.
I mean,
So here's what it was. Here we went off the tracks.
AFC East, we all nailed that one. The Patriots won the
for us.
division.
Yeah.
Great for us.
We took a real shot in the dark there.
Yeah.
Exactly. AFC North, Mike, you went with Cincinnati. Not a bad pick at the time. But Ricky and I, we nailed that one with the Pittsburgh Steelers. AFC South, we all had a mixed bag. Well, no, we didn't have it all mixed bag. Mike, you went with Houston. And Ricky went with Houston. And I went with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who finished the season with like 2 or 3 wins. Horrible pick. But hey, I still credit myself for being bold.
I mean,
and if that team finds a quarterback, they can win that division next year. AFC West.
This was a clinic on yards per play differential.
Yeah.
Yeah,
whatever
exactly.
you used to defend them towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
AFC West, all of us got that right, which is amazing because it was a very tough division to pick. We all picked the Chiefs. We all got that
That
right.
was actually a pretty good one.
Very impressive. Ricky, you nailed all the AFC division winners. You should have done a 4-team parlay on that.
should've.
You wouldn't be here right now. You'd be on a yacht in Key Largo.
I don't think you know how that works.
You hanging out with the Giants
talking about?
receivers.
How much money can you really?
It would have like $4.
Yeah.
AFC wild
It's all
cards.
right. I would have went right to the meat spot.
Mike,
all some
you went with
sandwiches.
Pittsburgh and Denver.
That way.
Pittsburgh, that's a playoff team, so I'll give you that one. Denver, they could have
They
been.
could have
a playoff
been.
team.
They should have been.
Ricky, horrible wild card team. Cincinnati and Jacksonville,
Yeah.
atrocious.
Yeah, well.
And I went with Cincinnati and Oakland. So I'm the only one who picked the Raiders to make the playoffs. I'll give myself a round of applause. And then the NFC.
In hindsight, that was kind of dumb. That none of
Why?
us picked the
The
Raiders.
Raiders? Oh, that's
Yeah.
why I gave myself
Hey,
a
good on
round
us
of
for
applause.
recognizing that the Broncos would take a step back, though.
NFC East, all of us overreacted to the Tony Romo injury, as we should have, and picked the New York Giants to win the East. At least they made the playoffs.
They were a good team.
It's not a bad
They're
pick.
still a very good team.
Not a bad pick.
But still a huge overreaction. NFC North, we all nailed that one. Green Bay Packers.
Barely.
NFC South, you guys both went with the Panthers, and I went with the Bucks. We were all wrong. Falcons won the division. Bucks finished better than the Panthers. They had a great season.
I still think that.
In the West, I went with Seattle. No, I didn't go with Seattle. I did go with Seattle.
Can you read?
Ricky,
It was
you went with
17 weeks into this
Arizona. And Mike, he went with Arizona too, so I'm the only one who got that right. And the wild card teams, though, Seattle and Dallas for Mike Cole. Seattle made the playoffs, so we'll give you that. Dallas made the playoffs, so we'll give you that. Look at that. Wow, incredible. Ricky, you went with Seattle and Minnesota. You almost had something there with the Vikings, but...
Yeah, I was smelling like roses through the first 5 weeks.
And I went Carolina, Arizona, which was horrible.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch the video and see why I picked Dallas. I'm curious as to why I picked Dallas.
I'd like to know
Well,
what your rationale
I
was.
honestly, I picked
It
Dallas.
must have been a pretty smart.
I really
opinion.
picked Dallas to win the
I'm
NFC
thinking you
East.
really like that
As a
offensive line.
Cowboys
Yeah.
fan, though, I went reverse jinx, so they would make the playoffs.
Oh,
So I picked the Giants.
great.
That's why I picked the Giants.
Good call.
Super Bowl picks. I'm still alive. Seattle over Pittsburgh. I don't think it's going to happen anymore. Arizona over Kansas City for Ricky. I like the Kansas City AFC pick.
Yeah.
And Mike Cole,
Seattle over New England.
Yeah.
Seattle over New England. Yeah.
That was a
Yeah.
tough go of it over
I
there.
just keep scrolling up and down. All right, give me a break.
It's all right. Now that we
All right.
wasted about 10 minutes.
Last
Yeah,
week's standings.
Last week, yeah.
We're
real quick.
still not done.
make
We
it-
need to go over final standings for the regular season, and we're going to crown our champion. Ricky, 10-6. You're the champion. Congratulations. 127, 120, and 8. 7 games over 500. That's an impressive feat after all of us were in the cellar for most of the season.
It's a new season, though. Clean slate now.
Mike, second half MVP. You finished 8-8 in week 17. Got 120 wins. And I don't know what happened to me in the last 2 weeks. I went 11-21. I dropped like an anchor. I like the way you put it. 114 wins. I finished 13 games behind first place. I was once first place. It's just amazing what happened in the second half.
Last few weeks.
But playoffs, fresh slate. I'm gonna win.
All right. Speaking of the playoffs, let's get into we'll get into it. I guess I really don't want to do this, especially this first game. This is terrible. There's not a lot of good football this week.
I don't know. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm really looking.
It could be that bad that I'm looking
No,
forward to.
I think it's gonna be the game.
I have a huge thing. I just like seeing people struggle in general.
That's what you're saying, though. You're like, it might be that bad. It's like, yes, it's going to be that bad.
Yeah, like hilariously bad. So I
think it's gonna be a good game.
Entertaining.
Late
One's for the punters. If you're a big fan of the punting game, like I am.
You're selling Connor Cook short.
Late Saturday afternoon.
Get into it.
Oakland Raiders, they were a wild card team. They had the inside track to the number 2 seed, maybe even number 1 seed. Derek Carr goes down. They end up being a wild card team. They have to go on the road to take on the Houston Texans, who won the AFC South. All of, by the way, I should probably mention this, all of our odds, lines, trends, everything comes from oddshark.com, our friends over there. Make sure you check them out, especially I did a little video for Oddshark today, so that should be up at some point by the end of the week. It's really good. And so, 3.5 points is the spread here. Houston favored, and as we mentioned, a lot of injuries, especially at the quarterback position. Derek Carr's hurt. Matt McGloin's hurt. Connor Cook, third-string rookie, is going to make his first career start in the playoffs against a good defense in Houston. Whereas the Texans going back to Brock Osweiler after benching him, after giving him $1 bajillion in the offseason. Tom Savage, too dinged up, not ready to go. It looks like Matt
Cook?
Matt Castle is who's the backup in Houston now?
I was about to say, I love the oh crap factor after Derek Carr went down. It's like, oh wait a second, who is that backup? Like
Matty McGloin.
Know, but like at the time, I didn't know who the hell it was.
Matty McGloin.
Matt McGloin sounds like
who's Oakland's backup
Matt
now?
McGloin sounds like a guy who just fell off a bar stool. Connor Cook sounds like some kid you had like algebra with back in like the mid-90s.
Mid-90s.
Brandon Weeden will be the backup quarterback for Houston.
What about for Oakland?
I'm looking it up. Why don't you start?
All right, I'll start off with my pick because I don't think the backup is gonna play a factor for Oakland. Because guess what? Oakland still has an outstanding offensive line with Kelechi Osemele and Donnie Penn. They're gonna give Connor Cook time to throw. Connor Cook has a lot of weapons. Michael Crabtree, DeAndre Washington, who I like. Great number. And their third-string running back, Jalen Richard. I love that guy. No, it's actually Richard. It's Richard. And like Maurice Rockert Richard. Anyway, I like Oakland to take this one. They still have a plus 16 turnover differential. I could see Brock Osweiler, who threw 16 interceptions this year, more interceptions than touchdowns. I could see him making a lot of mistakes against an Oakland defense that forces turnovers. Give, I was going to say Matt Cook again, Connor Cook, a lot of good field position, and Sebastian Janikowski type of game. You know, I can see him kick a bunch of field goals. Connor Cook, I don't think he'll be as bad as people think he will. He was actually pretty decent against a tough Denver Broncos defense, 14 of 21, touchdown and a pick. You know what? I'll take the Raiders. You're giving me points, too, against the Texans. What have the Texans shown us this year? Nothing. Nothing.
I mean, there is some unpredictability
Negative 49-point differential.
The fact that Connor Cook is he's an unknown quantity. So, you know, if you want to hang your hat on that.
I'm not saying he's going to be Tom Brady in his first start.
But I'm not going in that direction. I look at this and I sat there for like 5 minutes and thought, like, where are the points coming from in this game on either side of the ball?
Reggie Nelson.
And basically, for me, it boils down to I trust the Texans running game against the Raiders defense more than I trust the Raiders running game against the Texans defense. Because the Texans defense has been pretty good for the most part all season. Really good over the last few weeks. I think they have the best, you want to talk about the yards per play that we toss around. Opponent yards per play best over the last 3 weeks by a pretty wide margin. I mean, with a lot of this, too, you can dumb it down to maybe it's the level of competition they played throughout the season because that division obviously sucks. There's a reason that they won that.
But they beat bad teams, and Oakland's a bad team right now.
Exactly. Yeah, you can make that argument. So, for me,
They're not a bad team. They're a great team with a bad quarterback.
They're not a great team.
I don't know.
You don't like their personnel? You don't like Khalil Mack? Khalil Mack is going to eat Brock Osweiler for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
It's not going to happen. Go on, Ricky.
Anyways, so I don't know. Like I said, I trust the Texans offense a little bit more in this situation, which is saying something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
These two teams played already this season.
Plus, the home field advantage, I'm giving a little credit.
Week 11, they played in Mexico. Oakland covered, but barely. I think it was a 6-point spread. Oakland won 27-20. They got a not even a really impressive touchdown. They threw the ball out to, I think it was Crabtree on a screen. He made a guy miss. That ended up being the difference. In that game, you talk about the Oakland run game against Houston's defense. 30 yards on 20 carries for the Raiders in that game against Houston's run defense. Lamar Miller's back this week. I think you look at what they've done since without him. I think he missed the last 2-3 games. They've rushed for 79 yards, 95 yards, and 46 yards. Getting him back, I think, will be a huge benefit. And again, you look at that team. I think I wrote this down. Clowney, Cushing, Miller, and Jonathan Joseph all back. You got Quentin Demps, who's just named Defensive Player of the Month. They don't give up a lot of points, and they especially don't give up a lot of points at home. They haven't allowed more than 21 points, or they've allowed more than 21 points just twice since October 24th. None of those instances came last week. One of those came last week in a game that they didn't need. They were without guys. Giving up 16.25 points per game at home this season. Connor Cook, he did move the ball pretty well last week, but now you've got a week of game film, a week to prepare for him. And again, I was doing a little research. ESPN.com did a thing where they spoke to NFL insiders across the league. One person told ESPN.com, quote, Oakland will not score a point. So people who work in the NFL teams' offices, a little bit smarter than I am. So I like that. The fact I just don't think
presumably
Oakland will not score. That's
give yourself a little credit.
They force turnovers. We know that. Brock Osweiler makes turnovers. We know that too.
Yeah,
when teams force more turnovers than the other team, they win around 80% of the time.
16-10. I don't.
You're giving me points too.
I'm just seeing a situation where
this is too obvious.
I don't know. I just see a situation where you kind of, if you're Houston, you stack the box, take away the run game, and force Connor Cook to beat
Houston
you.
going to score?
And you got the second best pass defense in the NFL in terms of yards per game. So
as bad as Brock Osweiler's been too, I do trust him more than Connor Cook. Again, it's like picking between cyanide and anthrax, but I
that's
trust
a devastating
him more.
matchup amongst Titans if I've ever heard one.
This is a guy who started in the NFL. This is a guy who maybe not earned, but was
Dak Prescott stepped in this year, first game of the season, and he played well. How come Connor Cook can't do that?
I acknowledge the offensive line, Ezekiel Elliott, Des Bryant.
Oakland has better offensive line in terms of pass protection. Derek Carr was sacked least amount of times among any quarterback this year. The Raiders allowed 18 sacks this year, fewest among any team.
All right. So what's your point?
My point is Cook's going to have time to throw.
Oh, who's he going to throw it to?
And guess what? J.J. Watt, ever since he's been, I say this stat every week. He's been, I love this stat. Let me tell you this stat. I wrote it in my notes. I didn't put it in the actual picks column. That's why I got to share it to the public right now.
Well, I didn't even get to the fact that this is a revenge game for Shane Leckler. All right, he's going to be pinning them deep all afternoon.
That's the best point you guys have.
So Connor Cook is going to just have a hard time driving 98 yards down the field when Leckler's pinning them
this
deep
year,
all day.
Texans 5.6 sack percentage without J.J. Watt. Last year, 7.5 sack percentage.
Okay.
You're not going to have a pass rush. Raiders have a good pass protection. I like the time that Cook's going to have.
Last 3 games, Houston's sack percentage 8.65%, and that's without the combination of Clowney, Cushing, and Jonathan Joseph on the outside. Joseph, Demps, lock guys down on the outside, gives Cushing, Clowney. Clowney's a beast.
He's banged up though.
Whitney Mercilus is one of the most underrated players in the NFL right now. I don't see a huge drop off. I think
I just showed you the numbers. It's a huge drop off.
Yeah, well they're playing well
recently.
Right now.
Cool against AFC South divisional rivals. Awesome.
Okay.
They're going up against the best pass protection right now. How do they do against Oakland and Mexico? Not very well.
Rookie quarterbacks.
I don't know
What's that?
Rookie quarterbacks 2-5 in the playoffs since 2011.
It'll be 3-5.
Those 2 wins was when 2 rookies faced each other. So something had to give. It was the.
Isn't Brock Osweiler a rookie technically? Osweiler's a rookie technically. He didn't play a full season last year.
He's the immovable object in this game.
It doesn't work that way in the NFL.
Well, in baseball it does.
Yes, it
Give me a September call-up next year. You're a rookie. Osweiler's a rookie in my book. All right, let's move on.
We spent way too much time on that game because, I don't know. It could be 0-0 for 4 overtimes.
And guess what?
And then,
Raiders will cover.
Yeah.
3-0.
Miller 104 yards on 24 carries, by the way, against Oakland last time around. Saturday night.
Not doubting his excellence.
Saturday night. Detroit Lions, after pooping their pants down the stretch and losing, it's like I've said all year, the Lions were never that good. They still could win this week, though. 8-point underdogs on the road at Seattle, because Seattle I don't think is that good. You can make the argument that these are the two worst teams in the NFC left standing. I mean, I guess that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can argue the merits of the Giants, but
Well, argue pretty much anything as long as you want.
yeah,
as long as you
true.
get the will to win that argument.
Seahawks 8-point favorites Saturday night, 8:35. Over under or total 43. So another expecting a low scoring game here. Weather 39, overcast, might rain, little flurries. Detroit not necessarily used to that coming outside or going outside. Earl Thomas even tweeted that out. Said, I don't know how they're going to handle the weather. Well,
Yeah,
I don't know how they're going to handle
Wait,
that.
what?
Earl
3
Thomas,
games outdoor all year?
Yeah.
0-3.
Yeah. We touched on this many a time.
Yeah.
Especially
We had it. There was one week we really went
Yeah,
all in on the weather.
And I ended up being. Never mind.
wrong.
Yeah, I think that's when your demise started. When you
Yeah.
started.
I've been
becoming
good with the Lions this year.
meteorologists.
I've been good with the Lions this year.
Lions 8-point underdogs. Ricky, start it off.
I'm taking the Seahawks, and I think this is going to be a blowout. To be quite honest with you, I just think there's so many things working against Detroit in this game. You're coming off the 3 straight losses to end the season. Granted, they were against good teams, but the last 2 especially in prime time. You're flying across the country. You mentioned the outdoor factor in a place that's notoriously tough to play in. You're talking about a Seattle team that's 5-0 under Pete Carroll in home playoff games. A Lions team that hasn't won a playoff game since 1957. One playoff game since 1957. To me, this seems like the Lions have run out of gas. They were pulling rabbits out of the hat left and right, throughout the course of the season. Just finally caught up with them. I don't know. I think
Magic.
this team's just done. They're toast.
Yeah.
Dead in the water. And I acknowledge that the Seahawks have been limping across the finish line as well. So, it's not, none of this really stems too much from having a lot of confidence in them. More so, just I don't know with the Lions, especially with that Matthew Stafford injury. It's still bothering him, that finger. I mean, granted he wasn't terrible against Green Bay in the regular season finale, but there was some throws that he missed that I'm thinking if he's 100%, he doesn't have the working with the glove, the splint, whatever he's coming up with, whatever concoction he has week to week, he makes those throws. So yeah, I think this is going to be a blowout. Steamroll.
I don't think it'll be a blowout. I think it'll be closer because the Lions love to play in close games. I mean, 5 of their 7 losses this year have been decided by 7 points or less. I say this every week. I think it'll be the same situation here. They play in close games. Seattle has the best run defense in the NFL, but what does that matter? Lions don't even run the ball. They had the fewest rush attempts this year in the league. They love to throw the ball. Matt Stafford, his injury is a problem, but I can see him moving the ball down the field. Seattle allows 7.8 yards for pass attempts. They give up yards, air yards. They're really good in rush defense, but they give up a lot of air yards. So, and unlike Oakland, who also gives up a lot of air yards, Seattle doesn't make it up by forcing turnovers. They only forced 19 turnovers this year, which is 22nd. So Stafford he can protect the ball. I can see him getting some points. And, Russell Wilson, too. We've talked about him. He's been a roller coaster all year. The last 3 games, he's had, last 3 games, he had 8 touchdowns and a pick. So that means he's about to go down now. So this is how he's been. That's just 3 good games for Russell Wilson, followed by 3 bad games. Look at. No, that's how it's been all year. First 4 games, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick. Next 3 games, no touchdowns, 1 pick. Next 3 games after that, 6 touchdowns, no picks. 3 games after that, 2 touchdowns, 8 picks. And the last 3 games, 8 touchdowns, 1 pick. So now he's going to come down. But I think the Seahawks still win the game. But I think it'll be close.
I'm with Andre on this one. Checking the odd shark trends. The favored team was 3-7-2 against the spread last 3 years in wild card games. So there's a little bit of a weird valuation, and since I took the favorite in the first game, I'll take the underdog here. But for more reasons than that, I just wanted to point that out. But this is also, as I'm looking through the odd shark trends, Seattle is 7-0 in their last 7 games when hosting an East Coast team. I'm not sure if Detroit is an East Coast team, but
they're in the Eastern time zone.
Yeah, I think that's what it means.
Yeah.
It's the beautiful East Coast city of Detroit. What stinks is I made this pick, and I did it kind of backwards this week. I kind of made picks without really digging in deep. So as I was doing a little bit of research for the show, I thought about changing my pick, but I thought that would be a little bit
cheating.
Cheating? Well, not cheating. I don't think it's cheating necessarily. It's just I I'm an idiot.
Just
But,
hedging your bets. You know?
yeah,
You-
right.
you
But,
say what
because
you point to whatever you want
so
after.
I'll kind of lay out the case for both here because I'm still on the fence. If I was making a bet, I'm gonna make a pick. Man, I'm gonna take Detroit for the reasons you mentioned. But it gives me concern that
So many things going
Detroit
against them in
can't
this game.
run the ball, and it could be without Marvin Jones, who's like arguably their best receiver this season. They might be without Ziggy Ansah. Their pass rush sucks enough as it is. And
Lions?
they had and they had
The
two
Lions'
offensive.
defense is not good.
They lost two
By
They
any-
offensive
don't have
linemen.
Slay either.
They lost two offensive linemen this week or this past week. They haven't practiced this week yet. If they're and they're two interior offensive linemen. Michael Bennett, you want to talk about people being eaten alive? Bennett might pin his ear back and just rip Stafford's head off and throw it into the Puget Sound. I mean, it's just I don't know. So I guess it's tough. But like you said, the Lions, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's like a Vegas thing, they just haven't figured them out, or what. This just is a scrappy team that doesn't necessarily isn't great, but they cover usually. These two
He's
teams
gonna rip
played
his head off and throw it in the Puget
a
Sound.
couple. They played last year. Was it last season?
First decapitation in NFL history.
And this is the thing.
What a week to do it.
They played. Everybody talks about how great Seattle
All
is
these
at home.
garbage games.
You
Wild
talk about
card weekend.
this is again. We're into the wild card week.
We were going for that.
Oh,
that
got
was
him,
planned. That was planned. Yes. Sorry, go on.
Anyway, everybody
Nobody's
wants
coming.
to talk about how Seattle's so good at home. They're not at the same team without Marshawn Lynch and Earl Thomas. And you also look at last year, Detroit went in there on a Monday night. That's a pretty big spot, right?
Oh,
it's
Monday
just,
night.
And they lost 13-10. They should have won that game, but they got boned on that. Remember that?
Yeah.
touching play or whatever it was. So and I guess you look at when Detroit doesn't force turnovers, they lose games. They forced just 2 turnovers and 7 losses this year. Seattle is not a bad turnover ratio. They're +1, but that's a little misleading because of that terrible game in Green Bay. Also, this is actually pretty interesting. Before the Earl Thomas injury, the Seahawks were giving up 6.3 yards per attempt in the passing game. And the games after the Earl Thomas injury, they gave up 8.4 yards per attempt.
Yeah.
That's 6.3 yards per attempt. If they had continued that for the entire season, would have been second in the league. Now they're middle of the pack. And if you take out the 4 games that they played without him, Green Bay, that's tough. You got to go into Green Bay and play Aaron Rodgers. That's your pass defense is going to take a hit. Arizona, which is whatever. San Francisco and LA. If you take out that Thursday night LA game, they gave up 10 yards per attempt without Earl Thomas. So I think that's against bad teams, you don't really feel that as much, but against a team that can actually move the ball a little bit, I think that again, Seattle wins the game, but it's close.
Yeah, let me just add something. Before Matt Stafford's head gets decapitated, he actually does very well against good pass rushes. Against teams with 40 or more sacks this season, when he gets his head ripped off, he has 10 touchdowns on 4 picks with a 61% completion percentage, and that's against teams with 40-plus sacks this season. So,
He's a glutton for punishment.
yeah, he played 5 games against teams with 40 or more sacks.
Heads are falling off. Great novelty stat here to add to your Eastern Time Zone thing.
Yeah.
This is courtesy of Oddchalk. Seahawks 24-2 against spread in the last 26 games at night, 7 p.m. or later. So.
Again,
That's one of those ones. Do whatever you want with it.
God bless them, but I don't
you
really
have it-
care.
But you have it.
Lions sleep
Just,
at night.
you know,
The
the
lion
nice-
sleeps at night.
Huh?
There's a song.
The Lion sleeps at night.
Yeah, there
that's
you
true.
go.
But wait, so they're
see
bad
how you
after
wish.
7 o'clock, or
Well,
Oh,
the
the
Seahawks
Seahawks are good
are
at home.
dominant.
Seahawks are good
Oh,
after.
nice.
So
They
Lion
own the
will
night,
sleep.
baby. They own the night.
Was that East Coast
They
Detroit
sleep.
time or?
Yeah,
Call them the
Yeah,
Nighthawks, not the Seahawks. A few college hockey teams named the Nighthawks.
Nighthawks. I'm sure there's a lot of high schools that
Yeah.
are going with Nighthawks out there across the nation.
Let's move to Sunday.
Let's please.
Miami Dolphins. They're a wild card team. Good for the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, good for them.
They
plateaued.
They played a horrible schedule. They won 10 games. Good for them. They're 10-point underdogs. That seems like a lot against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers, as we mentioned earlier, won the AFC North. Couldn't quite get the bye. Kind of an up and down season for both teams, but both good enough. Obviously, they're in the playoffs. 10 points. Andre, what do you think?
I I love the Steelers minus 10.
The total in this game, 46. Another.
It's
low
minus
total.
10. A lot of points, but I'm still going to take the Steelers. Steelers have been winning a lot of football games lately. They've won 7 in a row, and they've won
point.
despite Ben Roethlisberger.
That's the key to the to playoff
No,
football
hold
too.
on.
You gotta win.
Be quiet.
You
Hold
play
on.
to
I'm
win the
talking.
game.
That's a
They've
good
won
trend.
despite Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger in those last 6 games has 9 touchdowns, 6 picks. Why are they winning so many games? They're winning because of smash mouth defense. Let
Score
me
more
tell you.
points.
The defense has come alive. They have 25 sacks in the last 7 games. It's the most in that span. And they've also allowed 4.7 yards per play in those 7 games. It's the best in the league in that 7-game span. So they have the best defense in the league in the last 7 games. Steelers are entering the playoffs on fire. Why are you shaking your head at
They
me?
haven't played anybody, but go on.
They haven't played anybody. That's true. 2 games against the Browns in that situation. But who are they playing this week? They're playing the Miami Dolphins. Matt Moore. And let me tell you something like Jay Ajayi. Despite 50% of his yardage, rushing yardage this year, has come in those 3 games, and he had 200 yards. So
I'm gonna get to that too.
he's going to get to that. So let me add one more thing. Miami's allowed 4.8 rushing yards per carry this season, most in the league. They're going up against Le'Veon Bell. It's not a good matchup.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going with the Steelers as well. This is one, you see a double-digit spread in the playoffs, and it gives you a reason to pause. And I did this, admittedly, with the Lions game as well at first, and then you start adding things up, and I just can't figure out a way in which the Dolphins win this game, keep it close, let alone win this game. You look at them; they get 29th ranked defense in terms of yards this year. I know it's not the best indicator, but you look at some of the other garbage teams that they're amongst. Particularly when it comes to against the run. I mean, they're ranked 30th against the run, just ahead of Cleveland and the 49ers, who, I mean, I don't think we got to sit here and talk about them. I think their record combined is 3-29. So that just speaks volumes about where that unit's at. So I could just see a guy, Le'Veon Bell's going to have a field day. He might, eclipse 1,000 yards in this game. You want to talk about Jay Ajayi's performances of big games, the 200-yard games earlier this season. I would not be shocked if Bell puts up 200 yards from scrimmage, make an impact in on the ground in the passing game. And then on the flip side, too, you look at cornerback Byron Maxwell, who's had, there's been times where he's looked like a terrible cornerback, but for the most part, he grades up pretty well in terms of, pro football focus. Again, people that are smarter than I am in terms of grading things out. Double him to be a pretty good cornerback. He's not going to be in there, so it's just, there's a lot going against the Dolphins in this game as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually, my first instinct was to take the Dolphins, but then
It
because
is.
I don't think
It's a
that-
daunting amount of points.
and the
but
Steelers' defense, I really don't think is that good. And I think that the Dolphins have, Jarvis Landry is a nice player. They do some things. I mean, we saw it last week. I mean, they got their butts kicked by the Patriots, but they still put up some points. Once they finally, at least in the second half, they started moving the football. They have the ability to do that, maybe. But I started thinking about it. And I think one of the most important players this season, in terms of at least just if you're looking at the stats, is Mike Pouncey, the Dolphins center. And you talked about, the chunk of yardage came in, what was it, 3-game sample? Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, Pouncey played all 3 of those games. And actually, I must.
He
have
didn't
this
play the
in-
last one.
Oh, he didn't. Okay, so let me just double check in my. This is again, I did the same thing you did in the picks. In games that Pouncey played this season, the Dolphins averaged more than 154 rushing yards per game. In the 11 games he missed, just 95.6. So what is that? A difference of about 60 yards per game. And again, that's the only way Miami wins this game is if they go out there, they really pound the ball early, keep bending that offense off the field. I just don't think that they can do it long enough. I don't think they can sustain it long enough. And again, it's not a great offensive line. I think you get after the quarterback. And the Steelers are kind of middle of the road, as you said, in terms of the pass rush. I think they get after it. Also, only 4 teams in the NFL went 3 and out more times this season than Miami did. So if you're going 3 and out all afternoon, at least in the first half, I mean, we saw this last week. You fall down behind against a team like the Patriots. I don't know if the Steelers' offense is as good as the Patriots' offense is. The potential's certainly there to be as good. So if you're down 14-0 with Matt Moore at quarterback on the road in Pittsburgh in the playoffs, you're done.
Yeah,
I think that's a situation they could be looking at. Also, we want to talk about our guys over at Oddshark. One of our good friends, Johnny Oddshark. John Campbell? I just go call
Johnny
Johnny Oddshark. Yeah. He had this in a story on Thursday. Steelers, as of mid-December, were 5-1 straight up, 5-0-1 against the spread in the last 6 games in 32 degrees or colder. It's going to be 17 degrees.
Yeah.
It's not as cold in Miami as it is in Pittsburgh. A little bit different for them. So in Miami, also without could be without 2 starting safeties. They could be without their number 3 safety. They're down a cornerback. It's just
Yeah, that secondary is a mess.
Yeah.
Who do
There's
you
a
think
lot
is,
of ways in which the Steelers could really just pile
be.
on the points.
It's
Which is why 10
especially if they get Ladarius Green back.
Matt
Right.
Moore, birthplace, Van Nuys, California. He's never seen 17 degrees in his life.
There you go. Well,
Ben
I was gonna
Roethlisberger, though.
I think we also were, to a certain point, underselling the quarterback battle there because you said Matt Moore and I think that's it's
He's
pretty
actually
big. It's a
played
pretty
pretty well,
simplistic
though.
way to look at. I'll give
but,
you that.
But he's going to be in.
But really, if
Yeah.
a simplistic way of looking at it is Matt Moore or
He
Ben
might have his
Roethlisberger.
head decapitated and thrown into the Allegheny River.
I don't think we can handle 2 decapitations in one weekend.
All right, let's get to the main event.
Like that's a nice prop bet for the weekend though. Everybody wants to tackle that one.
How many decapitations?
Should bring one of your WWE action figures and decapitate their heads for show and tell later on.
So Sunday afternoon, the big game, 4:40 p.m. That's a late start. I don't like the playoffs late start. It's weird. I guess it's only 15 minutes later than usual. I don't know. 4:40 just looks
I don't like it
weird.
either.
Packers, they NFC North champions. Nice little run for them, winning 6 straight to end the season. Taking on a Giants team that was, in contention. It would have been in contention just about any other division. The Cowboys kind of ran away with that one. The Giants, pretty impressive. Week
Yeah.
17 showing they had nothing to play for. A little bit of a risk maybe in terms of injuries, but I like what they did. Week 17, I like that. You know, go into it. Just if you're
As
gonna
long
be
as
a
you
wild
survive
card
it,
team,
you come out I think better because of it.
Just try
It's
to stay
just a
hot.
calculated risk.
Yeah, it is, and I think that this is a team that has to be hot going in to win the Super Bowl. I think that
Seen it before, yeah.
right. So I think that you don't lose a whole lot by risking that. But the Packers, as it stands right now, 4.5-point favorites. This game opened at about 7.5 points in favor of the Packers. It nosedived so fast. The wise guys all over it, and more power to them. I don't think any of us is going to sit here and say no matter what our pick is, 7.5 points. I think it's a clean sweep. We all take the Giants. We take the points. But it's 4.5. So Ricky, why don't you start it off?
I'm still taking the points. I just think this is kind of a bad matchup for Green Bay. It's
Yeah,
a
it
tough
sucks.
draw.
Yeah.
You
This is
can
your
make the
reward
case
for winning out, getting hot. And
right.
gotta
I
go
mean, you
play
could
a team.
almost make the case that this would be like the biggest hurdle to clear in road to the Super Bowl. I mean, this is a pretty tough draw for them. I look at that secondary is pretty banged up, and then you look across the field, and the Giants obviously when they're not partying have the three a great wide receiving trio. You look at the Giants' run defense, kind of neutralize, take that part of it. Basically, it's going to boil down to Aaron Rodgers having to win this game, put this game on his back, which, listen, that could happen. We've seen it.
Yeah, that's the Cowboys.
We've basically seen that down the stretch on several occasions. But if you're going to just ask me if that's going to happen again against this Giants defense while you're giving me points too, I'm going to take the Giants. But again, if Rodgers comes out, has a game, he has a game. I don't think anybody would be too shocked by it. But if I'm a betting man, I'm taking the Giants this one.
Listen, I'm sick of this narrative about, it's playoff time. That means Eli Manning has to step up his game back to the old days. Oh, yeah, it's January. We're going to see the old Eli.
Can I just interject? As a Packers fan, I'm with you 100%, but you can't really say anything. You kind of have to just sit there and be like, I'm going to do all my talking
but
Sunday
I'm
night
still
if they win
gonna-
this game
I'm
because
still
still kind of scared.
Yeah.
Trust Aaron Rodgers, 18 touchdowns and no picks in the last 7 games, the 70% completion percentage, when the weather's been frigid in Green Bay. And guess what? It's going to be 10 degrees there, 11 degrees. And I went back into the archives, and I looked at Aaron Rodgers' numbers in games below
You have
20
good
degrees.
archives.
Games below 20 degrees. Aaron Rodgers in his career, 62% completion percentage, 6 touchdowns, 3 picks. That's pretty good compared to what Eli Manning's done in his 2 games under 20 degrees. One of them was actually the 2008 NFC Championship game, but he was horrible in that game. 21 out of 40, no touchdowns, no picks. They had a much better defense that year than they.
Favre gave it.
And Brett Favre was throwing picks left and right. Did he throw a pick in that game? I don't
Yeah,
remember.
in overtime.
Yes,
Set up
that's
the
right.
field
That's
goal.
right. Yeah. And Eli Manning's other game below 20 degrees, 51% completion percentage, 1 touchdown, 3 picks. He doesn't do well in the cold. He's older now. He probably doesn't handle the cold like his brother did last year. It's gonna be. I think this is gonna be a blowout. I think Aaron Rodgers. I know you don't like hearing that because Andre's gonna jinx the Packers, but no, it's just Aaron Rodgers is on another level right now. It really reminds me of 2010, where he was just unstoppable and. He has receiving threats now. Jordy Nelson's back on his game. Jared Cook's been playing well. Geronimo Allison is playing. Is it Geronimo or Geronimo?
I'm not sure.
He's a random guy. He's
Gmo.
good. And Ty Montgomery, a revelation out of nowhere. He's a running back. That's
So now they have a running game?
So now that, not yeah. Hey, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. They have a running. I mean, the Giants have a good rush defense. I don't see Montgomery.
No, I don't think that. Yeah, I don't think Montgomery.
He's not going to be an
150
impact.
is.
But then again, what is? It's like I think both of these pass rushers kind of negate each other. And you can sit here and argue that the Packers secondary is going to get gashed by the Giants passing game. Yeah, maybe if it was 65 degrees in the Meadowlands, but I don't think so in this type of weather.
A healthy Janoris Jenkins really helps the Giants in this one.
I don't
Is he
think
healthy?
Healthy, I would say.
He did.
So he missed week 16.
Oh, he did.
Came back, played sparingly in 17.
He's limited this week.
So
he's gonna play.
Right,
But
I mean, just the fact that he's out there as opposed to 2 weeks ago. I mean,
can't screw around with a
Listen,
back.
Giants also have the 4th worst time of possession this year. So
interesting.
they in that cold
Yeah,
weather.
I mean, they play that defense. They ride that
a
defense.
lot of coffin corner punting with the Giants.
Oh,
These two teams
tell me
played.
what a good time.
Played week 5. Green Bay won 23-16 in a game that nobody watched because it was a Sunday night game with one of the debates on. But I don't think that plays into this at all. Again, this was another one where I kind of start doing it out, and it's more of the number than anything else. I mean, I guess that's what it always is. But
4.5.
The 4.5.
Yeah.
If this is like 3, I'm much more inclined to take the Packers. I'm going to take the Giants in the points, but I'm not feeling good about it from a gambling perspective. I'm certainly not feeling good about it from a Packers fan perspective because the defense is for real. Still without Jason Pierre-Paul. Jenkins is banged up with that back injury. Sensabaugh is banged up, and Nat Burhey is that? I don't know. I never know how you say that. Bear, the safety.
Pavel Bure.
For the Giants. I feel like I should know that. He's like a starting safety. That's on me, guys. If all 4 of those guys are either out or banged up, I like the Packers' chances a lot more. I think they'd probably play. And again, this is a team that's got a lot of weapons, so to speak, on defense.
This is the stat that you wrote here that I love.
What, the
Third down? Yeah, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's the thing. It all comes down to third down in this game. I think that's a real testament, or real litmus test for this game is. The Packers rank 2nd and 3rd down percentage this year, which is higher than I expected them to be. I think it really tells you how good they've been lately.
It's probably been amazing the last 7 weeks.
Giants 3rd in 3rd down percentage against. So can the Packers sustain drives? And again, that kind of speaks to the time of possession thing. And that's the thing. You want to talk about time of possession? They did that all while ranking 3rd and 3rd down defense. So they got off the field. It's just their offense gave the ball right back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, if the Giants get off the field, I like their chances. And I think they will for most part. I still think that in the end, Rodgers makes a play. I do.
I was gonna say, kind of like that Bears game,
right?
All of a sudden you look up, he's throwing that missile downfield, and you're kicking a field goal.
The only thing is,
the Giants
with that Bears game, the Bears. I before that game, I said that the weather's going to neutralize the quarterback play, and it did. The Bears covered, but the Bears, you have to look at who they had at quarterback that game. Was Matt Barkley, who was a lot better than Eli Manning.
Right. Do we think
this is the same
No,
Eli Manning that you said a few weeks ago was playing brilliant football?
I still like Eli Manning, but in dome weather.
All right.
72 degrees.
Kind of plays in the Meadowlands.
Right,
I mean,
I just looked
Just
this up.
hoping that he plays a lot of road games.
I think it could come down to the kicking
Yeah, exactly.
game.
Which he will if he wins this game. He'll
Rob-
go to Dallas. And I'll take the Giants over the Cowboys next week, but not this week.
Robbie Gould's made all of his kicks, by the way, since signing with the Giants, which is pretty impressive. I think the kicking game could be a factor.
The
By the
holding
way,
game.
here's my thing.
Snapping.
What are your
Trey
thoughts
Johnson.
on the
want-
Bucks taking Roberto Aguayo with a second
That was a
round
bad
pick?
idea. Clearly a bad idea. It was great for us in the Super Contest last week, which I don't even want to get into. I had another point. Most important player this week, perhaps, in all 4 games, most important player
Kelechi Osemele?
could be Jared Cook.
No, I would say Osemele's
All right,
more important.
whatever, fine. But let me just give you some numbers. Bear with me here. Bear with me. This is from Chris Wesling per NFL Research. Rodgers' numbers without Jared Cook this season. Cook was banged up all year. Finally got healthy toward the end of the season. Without Jared Cook, 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 92.3 passer rating. With Jared Cook, 25 touchdowns, 1 interception, 114 passer rating. Let's see, what else do I got here?
So it seems like you're arguing for the Packers.
Yeah, I know. But
You've argued more for the
No,
Packers than
I-
for the Giants, and you picked the Giants.
No, I am. Because I still
It's a
think
jinx thing. You're
No,
just
it's
want,
not
yeah, it is.
necessarily
Or a
yeah.
collection of thoughts.
It's the same reason why I
Yes,
took the
yes.
Cowboys not to win the NFC East.
Essentially, give our pick, but here's
These,
the
well,
flip
I
side.
mean, the people are watching this not for my pick necessarily, but for information. If they're doing it for my pick, they're dumb. But again, Rodgers completed 10 of 13 passes to him on third down for 175 yards. I probably should have brought that up a little bit earlier. 118 passer rating on third down to Jared Cook this year. We just talked about how big third down is, so Jared Cook is a huge player. The Giants, in games that they've allowed 270 or more passing yards this season, they're allowing 16 yards per reception to tight ends. It's by far their biggest weakness is the tight end. So I think that the Packers having Cook back is a big factor. That being said, the Packers secondary, as we've talked about, banged up. They're starting a kid who was a Miami receiver last year, University of Miami. They just activated him from not starting him, but they're promoting him for the practice squad because the cornerback situation is a disaster.
Every team has a disastrous situation on their
Beckham,
team.
Cruz he's a ghost.
Look at the
Shepard's
Giants
pretty
running
good.
game.
It's come along. It's better than it was.
Well,
I
they got rid of
think-
Orleans Darkwa and
I
collapsed.
I see this being like a 24, 21, 27, 24 I think more points are going to be scored in this game than people are expecting. But I think the Packers find a way to win. I just don't know if they cover.
Okay, this was fun. We weren't here last week. We didn't do the spread.
This is 2
Happy
weeks
New Year,
of
by the way.
Frustration.
Happy New Year.
You can drop that now.
It's still January 4. When is the last day? January 5.
I said I'd give you the month. Andre thinks that you can, as long as it's the first time you see somebody in the new year, you can say Happy New Year.
No, that's not
No,
what I
no. It is no. That's
Valentine's
not happening.
Day.
You got a couple weeks to get in and get out. Otherwise, if the calendar flips to February and you're still wishing people a Happy New Year, you can go screw, man. I'll tell you to take your Happy New Year and
said. Merry Christmas
Give it
to
to
both
somebody
of you.
else.
as
Isn't
well.
it weird that we would wish each other a Happy New Year too? Because time is relative anyway. Like it's just
Someone just made it up.
yeah.
What
So,
is
like,
a second, by the way? Who determined that a second is a second long?
I don't know.
It's
just think it was probably like 3 guys like us sitting there and you're like,
That's
that's it right there. And then you write it
I
down.
put
and
60 of these
and then
in
see if you
there.
can replicate it. And it's all about reps. It's all about repetition.
yeah.
And then once you get it down, you get like a beat going. There's the 1 second, the evolution of the second, if you will.
I
Ricky
bet
Doyle
you. I bet you those guys would have finished a little bit better in 8 games over 500.
Yeah, I mean, they invented the second.
Yeah, that's
The
true.
same guy who probably invented the fire
That's
invented the second.
that's a big thing to throw on your resume. That's a huge LinkedIn profile.
yeah.
Founder.
Invented,
I
Second.
founder
invented
of the
relative time. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that's been the spread. Nesson.com Football Picks Podcast.
But I
Thanks
mean,
again, as always, to our sponsor, Nesson.com. Thanks again to our friends at Oddshark for hooking us up with the lines. Don't drink too much this weekend. It's a marathon, not a sprint. We still got 4 weeks of playoff
Don't
football.
drink too much this week. I think this is the one weekend nobody's going to be
What are you
drinking.
digging into over there?
Christmas ended. I just brought a show and tell outside.
Oh,
We didn't do it.
Bring it in here. Bring it in anyway. You can't just. The cat's out of the bag.
All right. So,
This is so bad.
I want to know what he's got in there. He's got a
I
bathrobe.
was like this close to being like, all right, bye.
we have some shaving cream. In the soft, right? Like, soft. Because the
Some of
Patriots'
it.
schedule
Yeah.
has been very soft this year.
It's a smooth.
So that's why I bought the towel so that I can wipe it off afterwards. But we didn't do show and tell, so
Whatever.
we'll
You just
probably not
quick
even.
shaving. You got a little scruff going, anyways. You can
Yeah,
use it.
I mean, I don't have a razor with me.
That's how long the
Clean
show's
up.
going.
All right.
Okay,
A lot of fish there is going. Hey, Happy New Year, though.
bye.
We're in the grace period. Happy New Year.